All right, everyone. Welcome to Mass Historia, episode number 3. I do not have the cameras going for some reason. Let me just fix that. And I think it's because I forgot to click this, one simple trick. There we go. All right. You guys are good to go. And you're in the right spots. I looked out there.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Tonight.
Oh, I wanted to be Tim.
Tonight, we are going to dive into the World Wars and talk about the animal heroes that were featured in those wars. This is not all of the animal heroes by far.
Not at all.
Also, none of these stories are all inclusive. You have the everything that we're going to be covering tonight. There is so much more on all of these that you're going to have. I mean, you can continue the research that we did this week in order to gain a ton more out of it. So I want to say, Dueling Ogres, thank you very much for those 100 bits. I appreciate those very much. And Goldie Glocks, thank you very much for that lurk. I appreciate it. Now,
Goldilocks is a sweet name.
it is a really cool name, right? For those of you who are interested in a way to help support this podcast, I recommend you take a look down in the panels below, and you will find a link to the Brave browser. And that is a way you can support us for free and get a pretty cool browser with built-in ad blocking technology inside of it. So let's move on and get into today's show. But I'll do the thing where I actually say, "Hi, Tim."
Hi.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm good.
I totally was just like, I'm so excited to get into tonight's show.
Right?
Right? That I was just all like,
Skip this small talk. Let's go.
exactly. Everything that we normally do, that's nonsense and garbage. So, I can tell everybody we had, the music's just straight not playing.
Huh.
Why is my music just not playing? Let me make sure that starts working for you guys. Hit that button. There we go. There we go. The classic music has begun. It is time to do this. Popo Kangaroo says, "Why are we doing tears?" And that's because these stories that we're going to be telling tonight are combined so powerful, heartwarming, and sad at the same time. Sometimes not all of them are going to be sad, but there is definitely going to be some feels this evening.
Oh yeah. Some of them you'll be crying because it's so goddamn funny.
Right. So joining me tonight are Tim and Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom, how was your week leading up to the show?
Pretty great.
Yeah?
Been a pretty chill week. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had a job interview, did some job stuff.
Excellent.
It's going well.
All right. We are tonight, just in case anybody's just joining in one more time, covering the animal heroes of the First and Second World Wars.
We gonna talk
Some
about
of the
very
animal
couple
heroes.
of the
Some
girls.
of them. Yeah, right. So, to start us off, I believe that, Tim, you have a story for us. And that story
I do indeed.
is Sergeant Bill, the war-torn hero of the Fighting Fifth.
Indeed. So, when you think of Sergeant Bill, and I tell you it's going to be an animal, first thing that should pop into your head is, of course, next slide, a goat.
A billy goat, right?
Yes,
Right.
specifically a billy goat. Sergeant Bill was originally just Bill, the goat. And he lived in Saskatchewan, Canada, with his owner, Daisy, small young girl.
Mhm.
But right before the start of the World War, actually, probably not even before the start, but during, the 5th Western Cavalry Expeditionary Force out of Canada was shipping to the coast via train to go overseas to fight for their country. And they stopped in Broadview, a small town in Saskatchewan, where lo and behold, there's this small girl and this goat. And the goat immediately fell in love with the soldiers. Soldiers immediately fell in love with the goat.
It was love at first sight.
Love at first sight. In every way.
Witless Wonder took a guess at Bill and said
he did.
Duck. And then
that wasn't bad.
Right.
That wasn't bad. But yeah, so they're in this town, love at first sight, and they convince Daisy to let Bill become the mascot for the Fighting Fifth, the Cavalry Expedition Force from Canada. So Bill officially joined the army.
Was he Private Bill at that point?
At that point, he became Private Bill. He was actually enlisted in the military as the mascot for the Fifth.
Do you know what year that was?
I do. That was on August 23rd, 1914.
Okay.
Is when he officially joined the CEF as a soldier in and of himself.
What's the CEF? Canadian
Cavalry Expeditionary Force.
Okay, right.
However, there was one slight problem, and that was mascots were not supposed to go to the front lines. They were not supposed to go overseas. They were supposed to stay at home and mascot about while the soldiers went and did their job. Soldiers weren't having none of that. Next slide, please. Direct quote from Sergeant Harold Baldwin, member of the Fifth. "We could not part with Billy. The boys argued that we could easily get another colonel, but it was too far to the Rocky Mountains to get another goat. The difficulty was solved by buying a huge crate of oranges from a woman who was doing brisk trade with the boys. The oranges sold like hotcakes, and in a jiffy, the orange box, now empty, was converted into a crate, and Billy was shanghaied into the crate and smuggled aboard the train."
Oh my god!
From there, old Billy was smuggled on board the SS Lapland, where he officially went overseas, arriving in England in October of 1914.
Excellent. I do want to ask really quick. You were saying that this is the Cavalry Expeditionary Forces. Did anyone ever ride the goat into battle?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really hope so, but I don't know. That would be amazing, though.
Goat cavalry.
Oh my god!
Is just amazing.
Frankly, I'm not sure they would want to, and we'll get into why as we continue with our story of good old Billy here. So yeah, he arrived in England in October of 1914. 5 months later, the Fifth was officially going to France to fight in France and Belgium. Once again, Bill was not supposed to go. They specifically received orders to not take Bill with them. So what did they do?
They took Bill
with them! And smuggled him into France in February of 1915. However, things were not awesome come that time. Shortly after arriving, good old Billy was caught nosing around the orderly's room, somewhere he is not supposed to be.
Okay.
Now, some people are wondering if he was in there looking for beer. He was known for his fondness of beer, and it was also known that the orderlies generally drank in the orderly's room.
Orderlies being medical personnel?
Yes. But so, found Bill, kicked him out, and about 2 hours later, someone came out wondering, "Hey, has anyone seen the battalion roll? You know, the list of everyone who's in the battalion and their first and last names, their service numbers, when they joined, their next of kin, all that, good jazz we need to have a hold of?" And no one could find it.
Oh, no.
Oh, he did.
Until they checked Bill's pen.
Oh, no.
Where they found chewed up remnants of the battalion roll in his billet, and old Billy was placed under arrest.
So,
He did.
Private Bill the Goat was arrested for tampering with military documents.
Yes, for destruction of military property.
That's fantastic.
Oh my god.
About 2 months later, he was arrested a second time for assaulting a superior officer. There was a sergeant who was either being too loud near him, or possibly picking on him, or just didn't look right that day, and Bill charged a sergeant, a superior officer.
That's fantastic.
Now, for those of you playing the home game,
Goldilocks, thank you very much for that follow. Welcome to the Illuminati,
Hell yeah.
the most educated podcast on Twitch.
now, for those of you playing the home game, both of those offenses are court-martial offenses. Like, drum you out of the military,
Okay.
full dishonors, do jail time. Now, I'm not sure if it actually resulted in court-martials. I didn't find anything about that. But I do know that those are court-martial offenses. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Billy's not getting off to a real good start in his military career. However, during the fall of 1914, at the First Battle of Ypres, which is in France, Billy became a hero. He was found in a shell crater, standing over a nervous Prussian guardsman, guarding him, keeping him from leaving. Like the Prussian guardsman would not leave for fear of angering the goat. Not only that, but he was guarding this Prussian guardsman even though he had been wounded by shrapnel.
Holy
He
crap.
was bleeding and wounded and still guarding the shit out of this guard.
Amazing. Let me take a moment here to interrupt to address some things in the chat. People are asking about Wojtek, and yes, just hold your pants. Wojtek is coming.
Wojtek is coming.
Yeah.
I thought it was Wojtek.
It is Wojtek. It's
I did not know that.
Czechoslovakian. Is the original.
Ah.
But Goalie Glock says that Billy the Goat is my new spirit animal, which is an important, fantastic way. Cyan Mew asked if we heard about the parrot that had to go into witness protection. I did, but we do not have them today. We will do many episodes like this. So
I was gonna say, I'm sure there are gonna be lots of crazy animal stories.
This has been so much fun to research.
Yeah.
Right. Experience over there asked how late this is going. This podcast usually ends at 11-ish Pacific time. But tonight we might push it. Right. Because I got deep into the subject matter. Deep. And then let's see, make sure that I got everybody covered that needed to be covered. October says that Billy overcame his record to be the best. I mean, and Goldie Glock says that he is the greatest of all time, the GO8. All right, go ahead, Tim. I just wanted to make sure.
I wish I'd come up with that myself.
Right.
Okay, so we have our first credited attendance from Billy in battle in the fall of 1914. February 1915, at New Chapelle, Billy was officially on the books, promoted to the rank of sergeant.
Amazing.
So now we have Sergeant Billy the Goat.
What? How do you handle that as like a human private with a superior officer who's a goat? What do you even do?
You stand at
Deal with
attention,
it?
you son of a bitch.
Yeah. You show respect.
Oh my god.
All right, so moving right along at the second battle of Ypres. So we had the first battle where Prussian guardsmen, you stay put, you stone bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the second battle. Unfortunately, this is when some of the chemical warfare in World War I came into play, and the entire 5th was gassed, including Billy. After battle, after everything got mopped up, Billy was nowhere to be found. 5th were very concerned that he had fallen and was in the hands of the Bengal Lancers from India, who were reputed to have a taste for goat curry. Not curry, curry. So it was feared that our brave hero met his hands at the hands of a dinner pot. However, he was found safe and sound 1 week later in a farmer's field, just munching on grass.
Oh my god.
Yeah. All right. So from there,
court-martialed for dereliction of duty.
Right.
no, not at all. Not at all.
Are we on the right slide? I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
So from that point, his experience gets more and more harrowed. At the Battle of Hill 63 in December of 1915, he got trench foot. Later, he was shell-shocked along with many other soldiers at the Battle of Hill 70 in April of 1917 during the Battle for Vimy Ridge. He was wounded twice by shrapnel at the Battle of Festubert. However, at that battle,
just a sec. Goldilocks, thank you very much for those 2 bits. I appreciate those. Go ahead, Tim.
So at that point, Battle of Festubert, Billy stepped up to the plate once again, proving that he is the GOAT.
Right.
He was credited on the books with saving the lives of 3 people. Goats have pretty damn good hearing. All of a sudden, during the middle of maneuvers, Billy headbutted 3 people. One of them, a superior officer. I'm sorry, not a superior officer, but a fellow sergeant. 2 of them, 2 other soldiers, below him, into a crater, into a crater.
Right. Experience over 0. Thank you very much for those 10 bits.
And did this seconds before a shell exploded directly where they had been standing.
Oh my god.
Because he was doing the headbutting as opposed to getting into cover himself, he received more shrapnel wounds due to the shell exploding right next to him.
Do the Canadians have a version of the Purple Heart? Because I'm hearing some Purple Heart stuff here.
For this deed, he received the Monstar Award, which is a medal.
Excellent.
Is this something out of Space Jam?
The monster. Experience over 0 says, yeah, it's the Maple Heart. That's funny, eh?
But so the Monstar is a campaign medal for service in France or Belgium during the fall of 1914.
Okay.
By the end of the war, he had also received the British War Medal and the Victory Medal for his 4.5 years of service abroad.
Dang.
That is
4.5 years. This goat's just kicking it around, hanging out, doing badass shit.
in the slog that was described as hell on earth in World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, by the end of the war, turns out Sergeant Billy was one of the very few original soldiers of the 5th Battalion still active.
Wow.
Everyone else had either phased out or lost their lives in service. So one of the very few remaining. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Following the end of the war, Billy then accompanied his men to Berlin, where he marched in the Grand Europe Victory Parade, wearing an embroidered blue plush coat emblazoned with sergeant's chevrons, the 5th badge, and wound stripes. And you can see that coat in this image here.
That is one fancy ass coat.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that is the fancy.
It's a fancy ass coat.
Fancy goat coat.
And then, war's over. It's time to go home, right? Not according to immigration.
What?
No.
Immigration did not want to let Bill back into Europe. Or into England, I mean.
Those fiends.
But the 5th pulled some strings,
They
pushed some
smuggled
weight
him
around,
again.
and he comes. They didn't even smuggle him this time. They did everything right. They were like, nope, he's coming home. Damn it. We're taking him home.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's time to go home to Canada. That'd be fine, right? Nope. Immigration again.
Oh man.
Exact
Really?
same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Exact same solution.
they just
They'll
just
come
did it
home.
by the books.
Billy's a legit boy now.
Right.
Yep.
One last job, then I went legit.
Experience
So
over zero
despite
says
im-
that they needed to give him
Oh,
his
go ahead.
green card. And
Right?
You
and
might chew it up though.
October says, "Who said no to Billy? Give me their address. I just want to talk." And Golden Glock says, "Billy the goat, too legit to quit." Excellent.
Yep. So despite immigration problems, Billy returned to Saskatchewan with his unit, where it was demobilized in April of 1919. Upon reaching home, Billy then led, not just joined, but led the parade for the 5th in his hometown.
Awesome.
And then, who doesn't like a happy ending? After the war, he was brought back home to Daisy, complete with his coat.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yep.
That is so
Live-
heartwarming.
Then lived the rest of his days in Winnipeg.
Hmm.
Upon his death, we don't know the date. It wasn't documented. Daisy decided that Bill needed a more fitting end than just burial in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Reached
a war
out to
hero.
his old squad. Yeah. Reached out to his old squad, who then footed the entire bill to have him stuffed.
Hmm.
Next slide. So Bill, stuffed, was then placed in the Saskatchewan Legislative Building, where he remained for about 20 years.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Unfortunately, he received some... Go ahead.
Huh?
Is that the jacket specifically the one
That is specifically the jacket.
That's so good. Also, he has amazing horns.
right?
So, unfortunately received some damage while he was in the Saskatchewan Legislative Building. So they decided probably shouldn't be there anymore. Don't want this amazing war hero getting hurt. So he was returned to Broadview, his hometown, where he, to this day, has a place of honor in the Broadview Museum, as you can see on the screen right now.
Excellent.
That's so good.
So,
And that, ladies and gents, is the story of Sergeant Billy the Goat.
right? So what I'm hearing is that at some point we're going to need to go visit that museum, just like Golden Glocks just said.
Oh, yeah.
Going to visit that
Yeah.
museum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably stop in there on our way to APJ's old ship.
Right. When we go,
Hell yeah.
exactly. When this podcast is multinational and everybody's listening
Hell
to
yeah.
it, and we're flying
Mass
around.
Historia road trip.
Exactly. This will definitely be on the road stop. All right. So, everybody, I'm gonna take you guys down a trip. This is going to be an emotional roller coaster. I apologize in advance. But We're going
Sacrifices must be made.
Right. We're going to talk about Corporal Wojtek, he who was happy in war. Some of you know who this is. This will be brand new to a whole lot of you. But I can tell you, you're just about to get an information overload, because I found more than you'll find in any 10-minute documentary on YouTube, on any
Awesome.
listicle article you're going to find. I
Just based off of what he's already told me in passing leading up to this show,
right.
there's so much that isn't covered in 10 minutes.
Right. Everyone just
So much.
casually
We're
forgets.
historians, damn it.
Right. And I have not covered everything. There are books that I would recommend that you go take a look at. There is the story of Corporal Wojtek, which is there. I was unable to find the link that I was looking for because the movie is either in production or just produced in Europe. So we may get it over here, and that'll be awesome. But I'm going to set the stage a little bit, tell you guys a little bit about the Polish army. At the start of the Soviet invasion of Poland in September of 1939, the Soviets declared that the Polish state, which had previously been invaded by Axis forces earlier that month, no longer existed. In 1939, Poland ceased to exist as a country.
Due to outside decree?
Yes. The people who are occupying Poland. October, thank you very much for those 15 bits. I appreciate those very much. But, effectively, this broke off the Soviet-Polish relations due to a crazy idea that Stalin had, that the Polish were in fact working with Hitler. This does not do entirely justice to this situation. For anyone who knows anything about the history of Poland, it's very, very, very... this part is dark. There was massacres.
Yeah.
There were terrible things that occurred here. I am not trying to make light of the situation. I am just setting the backdrop for a different story. During the invasion, Soviet authorities deported 325,000 Polish citizens from Soviet-occupied Poland to the Soviet Union in 1940 and 1941 in order to work in the gulags. But due to British mediation and pressure, the Soviet Union and the Polish government in exile, which was then based in London, re-established Polish-Soviet diplomatic relations in 1941 July. After the German invasion of the Soviet Union began. So, when Stalin turned sides.
Yeah.
Right.
This allowed the people of the Polish gulags to be released. And as soon as they were released, they formed the Anders Army. It was an informal but common name for the Polish army, which was an army that did not have a country. The Anders Army was then evacuated from the Soviet Union and made its way through Iran and Palestine to British-controlled countries. Yeah. The Anders Army was on its way to begin working under British command to reinforce the war effort in Italy. But they had a very long way to travel and were accompanied by a lot of civilians. They also did not have a command infrastructure. An earlier massacre performed by Nazi forces had slain over 50,000 Polish commanders in a murder mass grave incident that you can find more about that we're not going to cover. It's darker than anything I'd like to go into right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But on April 8th, of 1942, at a railroad station in Hamadan, Iran, a few of the Polish soldiers encountered a young Kurdish boy. The boy approached them with what was basically a sack that was stuffed with something. After feeding the young boy and gaining his trust, they managed to get a peek at what was inside that bag. The young boy had found a bear cub whose mother had been shot by hunters. One civilian refugee in their midst, 18-year-old Irina Bokovitz, we will return to Irina much later in this story, was very taken with the cub, prompting Lieutenant Anatol Tornoecki to buy the young bear. According to one source, it cost a tin of corned beef. And the bear spent the next 3 months with the Polish refugee camp established near Tehran, principally under Irina's care.
He's so cute.
Wow.
Experience over 0, thank you very much for those 100 bits. Let me make sure I cover a little bit of the chat here while we've got a moment to take a rest here.
Such a cute little bear.
Yeah, he's adorable, right? Like, this is an actual picture of Wojtek.
Like, he looks like a stuffed animal.
Right? Experience over 0 says, just as dark as I like my women, goth and sad as fuck. Experience says, he looks like he will take your soul. He does look like a very dark little thing right there. He's got a little bit of spook to him. I love recolored black and white images. They look so cool. In August, the bear was donated to the 2nd Transport Company, which later became the 22nd Artillery Supply Command, 22nd Supply Company, and they named the bear Wojtek. His name is the Polish version of the Czech Wojciech, and translated poorly into English, it means war joy. And translated appropriately, it means he who enjoys war or joyous warrior. Badass name for a bear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The bear
Get some.
at that time was in poor shape. He was filthy, he was malnutritioned, and had trouble swallowing. So the soldiers fed him with condensed milk from an emptied vodka bottle.
Awesome.
After that, when he was well enough, they started feeding him other foods that they could get for him, like fruit, marmalade, honey, and syrup. Are those not the most bear things?
Yeah. You might even call them the bare necessities.
No. Wojtek also, as he grew, was rewarded with beer. Which eventually became his favorite drink.
As it should.
Right? Over the long journey from Iran to Palestine, the bear quickly became the unofficial mascot of the 22nd Company. Wojtek would even sit around the campfire with the men, eating, drinking, and sleeping in the tents with the rest of the soldiers.
Oh, this is so cute. Oh my god. I want a pet bear, damn it.
Witless Wonder, thank you very much for that applause. So here's a quote. He was like a child, like a small dog. He was given milk from a bottle like a baby. So therefore, he felt that these soldiers are nearly his parents, and therefore, he trusted us and he was very friendly. And that was a Polish soldier who spent 3 years alongside Wojtek during the war. There,
Polger. Close enough.
Polger.
You're right. This is Wojciech Narebski. You can watch a YouTube video of him last year giving an interview about the time he spent alongside of Wojciech. So, and it's hard to watch, man. It is a heart terror. So if you're ever interested, it is a very good watch. It's about a half hour, and it's constantly switching between a woman with a very thick Arabic accent asking him questions in English, it being translated into Polish, and then a man with a very thick Polish accent answering in English. So it's very fun to watch, but it'll get you.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, the Syrian brown bear is the only known bear in the world to have white claws.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. That is the type of bear that Wojciech is. Not so fun fact. Population of the Syrian brown bear continues to decline. It is already extinct in Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, and Syria due to habitat loss and poaching. It can be close to it is very close to extinction in the wild. If you'd like to help out, www.bearconservation.org.uk. It's, just in case anybody's interested.
Yeah.
Right? Wojciech began his career in the military very quickly as the Polish army made its way to Palestine. One night, while Wojciech was sleeping in an ammunition compound building, he awoke to find a thief breaking in.
You don't steal from Wojtek.
Right?
Yeah, you done just fucked up so bad. Like, could you imagine breaking into, like, somebody's house and then just, like, just a fucking bear? Just, like,
Welcome to my home. Have you met my bear?
Right?
You're about to.
I know, like, what do you even do other than shit yourself?
Wojciech cornered the man, and the thief was apprehended by soldiers who presumably heard the screams of a man face to face suddenly with a bear.
With a bear.
Right?
Oh my god.
This is like 8-month-old Wojciech or something like that. The Syrian brown bear is very small when it's born, but apparently it grows very quickly. They mature super fast. So at this point, he's almost 200 pounds or something like that.
Oh my god.
That's the big boy.
Right? So Wojciech was a rowdy boy.
Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah, his beer's his favorite drink.
Right? Not only did the
So
soldiers
cute.
reward his good behavior and tricks with beer, they also gave him cigarettes. They taught him how to smoke, but he mostly just ate them. I don't endorse teaching animals how to smoke.
Right.
This was a different time.
I also don't endorse eating tobacco.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the soldiers formed super close bonds with Wojciech. Pictured here are two of them, Dimitar Zalugo and Henryk Zarevich. I probably messed those names up, but I gaved it my damnedest.
Want that bear so bad.
Right? Look how big he is. This
And
is-
yet, like, cuddling with those soldiers.
These pictures are before they went overseas. They're still in Africa technically, or the Middle East, right? On their way through British-controlled stuff, but on their way to become part of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And Wojciech loved to play. The soldiers would
I'm
make
sure.
a game out of throwing oranges as grenade practice. And Wojciech would clean up the mess.
Oh my
Right?
god, it's so good.
The men also used to gather in small groups in order to attempt to knock the bear over. Almost always failing, as Wojciech roared with delight and wrestled with the men.
Oh my god.
And to cap it all off, if this wasn't already the most adorable war story ever told, he was even taught to salute when he was greeted by the soldiers.
Oh my god.
He's just a mascot at this point. He's just a mascot, right? Here's another quote. He liked a cigarette. He liked a bottle of beer. He drank a bottle of beer like any man. Augustin Kowalski, another soldier that served alongside.
He's a soldier. Of course he's going to drink him some beer.
Right. Fun fact here, Polish Lieutenant Joseph Stanislaw Kozak perfected the mine detector. It played an integral part in the winning of the North African campaign and helping the Allies in Europe. Without it, the casualties would have been much higher.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the Polish were a very influential force, and we'll find out a little bit more about some of the things that they did. After we talk more about this adorable bear.
Hell yeah.
So, Wojtek made a lot of friends during his military career, including a large Dalmatian dog who belonged to a British liaison officer. The two animals would play and wrestle together to the endless delight of their fellow soldiers. Wojtek's encounters with other animals didn't always end in delight.
Oh no.
While the 22nd Company made camp in the outskirts of an Iranian town, Wojtek decided to approach a grazing horse.
Oh, no.
The frightened animal then lashed several kicks towards the bear, hitting him in the neck and causing him to stagger. Wojtek then growled and groaned as if he was going to complain to the soldiers about the unjust punishment from such an undisciplined horse. So, he learned his lesson, and he steered clear of horses and donkeys for the remainder of the campaign.
They're just assholes.
Right?
Get it?
Ass.
And this
Donkeys.
here's one
Ass.
of the, right?
Hate you.
Here's one of the biggest facts that I found out about that every other little documentary that I've ever seen on this fails to mention. Apparently, there were other bear mascots in the Polish army.
But not good enough. Not like Wojtek.
Right? The 16th LWOW Rifles Battalion. I don't know if that's actually supposed to be Lwow or LWOW, but it looks like it's supposed to be Lwow by the capitalization of it. Had a bear mascot named Mikhail. It was named in memory of the Polish general Mikhail Tarzarowski, who had received the bear as a gift from the Shah of Persia. However, a violent run-in with Wojtek and an Arab regiment quickly ended the bear's welcome in the Polish army. The soldiers from Mikhail's regiment wanted to introduce their bear to Wojtek and hoped the two would become acquaintances. Yet, Mikhail tore at his leash and then attacked Wojtek with vicious growls and snarls. The soldiers
Kyle, you son of a bitch!
right?
Agreed.
Stay
What
away
a
from
bad
Wojtek,
bear.
right? The soldiers were unable to control the animals, and they had no choice but to wait for an outcome of the fight. Wojtek gained the upper hand in the violent fight and released Mikhail after the long bout. Following the aggressive display, Mikhail was taken to an Arab regiment stationed in Kirkuk. Yet, Mikhail attacked the Arab soldiers and as they made their way back to the Polish battalion. He was then given to the 22nd Transport Company, but after numerous more attacks on Wojtek, it was obvious that he had to move. Consequently, in 1943, the 22nd Company presented the Tel Aviv Zoo with Mikhail. The zoo owner gave them a monkey in return. But that monkey also did not get along with Wojtek.
Oh, I wanted Wojtek to ride around with a monkey.
Right.
To ride around with a monkey riding him. That'd be so good.
And as much research as I put in probably an hour and a half of raw data sorting to try and find what the fuck happened to this monkey. But I have no clue. Like, no data. I got the fact that they obtained a monkey, but that's as far as I got.
It's hushed, pushed under the rug.
Right?
Wojciech ate the monkey.
Turns out
Exactly.
monkeys threw some crap at Wojtek, literally,
Monkey
and
caught
Wojtek
yellow
was like,
fever.
whap! Yep, yellow fever for the monkey.
All right. Although he settled well into the army routine, he did have his share of mischief. In a large Allied forces military camp in Iraq, Wojtek stole a washing line full of women's soldiers' underwear, much to the horror of the terrified women.
Yep, sounds like a soldier.
On Christmas Eve, after a traditional Polish feast, he made his way to the camp food store. He was in search of his favorite jams and fruits, and he
And the
devastated
marmalades.
the place.
Yep,
Right?
sounds like a soldier.
Leaving the camp with a bit of a food shortage. However, in June 1943, in an attempt to commit another crime, he accidentally foiled an Arab plot to attack the camp. MF Challenger, thank you very much for that lurk. You see, Wojtek learned how to take showers. And he absolutely loved it.
Yeah, you don't want to be dirty.
Yeah, warm and comfy.
Right? And because he was a super genius bear, he learned how to turn the showers on by himself. And he
This
would
is the
do
best bear ever.
just that, right?
Oh my god.
Here's the $1 million questions.
Mhm.
Did he learn to turn them off,
No.
or did he just leave them running?
Right.
Sounds like Wojciech.
he would just take extended showers whenever he could get a chance, right?
Right.
And he was barred from taking showers
Oh.
due to a shortage of water in the desert, right? It was a precious commodity in the Middle East and hard to come by for the soldiers.
Right.
And the door of the bathhouse was then locked to keep the bear out. So
Good luck.
the bear would just hang out and wait to see if he could find the shower door unlocked. And one day,
Smartest bear ever.
right? One day, he spotted that very thing, an unlocked shower door. And upon entering, he found a man hiding in the showers. It turns out this was an Arab spy gathering information for an imminent attack on the base.
Oh,
Face to face with a bear, the spy easily gave up the locations of all of his forces and prevented the oncoming attack.
Oh my god.
this is like the best thing ever.
Right?
That's just pure intimidation.
Right.
Like prime example, the Avenger movies. The line, "We've got a Hulk,
Right.
we've got a bear."
Like the bear just ambles and is like, I just want to shower. The dude's like, oh, I'll fucking tell you anything.
Exactly. How did they get the information out of you? They had a bear.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Enough said. Fair enough.
His heroic efforts that day allowed him to receive an extended shower and a reward of beer and meat. I want to point
A
out
man of simple tastes.
that this picture is a bear in a truck.
Wow, that bear, he's getting big.
When the
Yeah, he's a
convoy-
big boy.
Yeah. When the convoy moved, Wojtek sat in the passenger seat of one of the trucks, with his head hanging out the windows, shocking and delighting onlookers.
Oh my
goodness.
god.
Right?
Look at the image on the side of the truck.
We'll get to that very
Oh.
soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
As the 22nd Transport Company prepared to enter the war zone in Italy in 1943, the soldiers and Wojtek encountered a logistical problem. animals are not allowed to accompany the army during conflict. Very similar to our story about Bill, right? It's, information there. So, in order to resolve this issue, the company gave Wojtek a salary in the paybook, an official rank of private, a serial number, and from that point on, he was included in all official unit rosters. Wojtek was now an enlisted soldier. The commanding officers even gave him the okay to have a soldier's rations. But Wojtek, who eventually, very soon, ended up weighing over 400 pounds, was given double rations.
Jesus. That's a big boy.
Right? Wojtek's comrades waived the appropriate documents in front of the British authorities and boarded the ship with the bear at the port of Alexandria.
Hell yeah.
So, I can imagine you've got these Polish soldiers who just stood there like, we've got it, we've finished it, everything's good to go. He's on the roster, and they're just there's like, as you can see, there's a couple of them around the bear as the bear is headed up on the dock. This is the picture of him boarding in Alexandria. They're just all like, ha 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 ha, like they speak Polish, the other guys speak English.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all love this bear.
Right, exactly.
Like, all I can think of is like the bear or the Polish soldiers just walking up, bear in hand.
Right.
And the British people are like, what the fuck is this? But they're talking to Polish people who can't speak English, so they're just kind of thumbs up. We go on boat now?
It's the Druid's animal companion. Come on.
Exactly.
Right.
In the chat here, MF Challenger says this should be called the Bearded Gentlemen's Club. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good name. We'll use that for something.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And October was mentioning when we were talking about the showers, he had to be very clean. Witness Wonder says, as someone who's been within 10 feet of a bear, I'd tell them anything as well. Right.
Yeah.
Witness says that they could put nails through my hand, they could hook my nipples to car batteries, and I might stay strong. But a bear? Nope. I'm fine with giving away any info. Right?
Yeah, no, at that point, you bring a bear in. What do you want to know? What do you want to know? I'll tell you things I forgot.
Exactly. Experience says, everyone salute the new war bear. And Witless Wonder says, the general asks, only give your name and serial number. And Wojtek says, roar. I can do better.
Yeah, and no, Witless, I would never say no to a bear.
Right? All right. Here's a quote. I forgot to fill it in. DSF. I guess I had a thing here I must have forgotten to fill in. So ignore those. That's some.
Consider them ignored.
You can see some templating that I do during the episodes. I literally just pound keyboards when I need a placeholder. So.
Yeah, so do I.
All right. So in 1944, the Polish Corps was transferred from Egypt to Italy to fight in the Italian campaign with the British forces. And it was Italy where Wojtek was exposed to the war that his comrades had been preparing for. It didn't take long for the badass bear Wojtek to get used to the sounds of artillery fire at the front line.
Oh my god.
Right? In fact, he would often perch himself in tall trees in order to observe distant explosions.
It's a really appropriate name.
Fucking serious badass bear.
Yeah. Shit's cool. You gotta look at it.
However,
you know what? I bet he walked away from explosions too.
Without looking back, you know?
Yeah.
However, the height of Wojtek's fame would come during the Battle of Monte Cassino in May of 1944. The 22nd Transport Company worked under heavy enemy fire in order to supply vital positions with ammunition and food. During the battle for Monte Cassino, Wojtek's company supplied approximately 17,320 tons of ammunition, 1,200 tons of fuel, and 1,116 tons of food for Polish and British troops.
In how much time?
I believe, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
It's just during the battle for Monte Cassino's, I'm not exactly even sure how long that was. I never even looked into that. I'll have to take a look. During this period, they were under constant barrage of enemy fire. And Wojtek fulfilled his duty as a true soldier.
It was 123 days long.
Okay.
Dang.
The full battle.
That is an impressive amount of movement.
Yeah. That's a lot of tonnage to be moving by hand.
Right?
Yeah.
Wojtek observed his comrades, who were continually loading and unloading heavy shells and boxes with ammunition. One moment, the bear walked towards the supply truck on his hind legs, outstretched his paws, and waited for the soldiers to give him something to carry. To their amazement, Wojtek effortlessly lifted a heavy box of ammunition and carried it from one truck to another and returned for more.
That's so good!
What a good boy.
Our brilliant bear hero, without being taught, began to do the soldiers' jobs with them.
Oh, this is the smartest bear ever.
Right? The campaign was proving to be one of the bloodiest battles in the Western Front. And the Poles were brought in to make one final push to capture the fortress. During the fight, Wojtek hand-carried boxes of ammunition, some weighing over 100 pounds, from supply trucks to artillery positions on the front lines. He worked tirelessly, day and night, bringing supplies to his friends who were bravely battling the Nazis. He never rested. He never dropped a single artillery shell. He never showed any fear, despite his position being under constant enemy fire and heavy shelling.
Jesus. Best soldier, not even bear. Best soldier
Right.
ever.
If I had 100
Yeah.
Wojteks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filled with enthusiasm, the bear marched day after day and carried vital supplies. Astonishingly, Wojtek was so careful that he never dropped a single shell or food sack or box of ammunition during the entire campaign.
And I'm sure he's the only soldier
Right.
that was providing logistics where that could be fed.
Yeah.
Thanks in part to the heavy shelling of their artillery, the Polish forces broke through the Nazi defensive line, and they captured Monte Cassino. Wojtek and his comrades would go on to fight the Germans across the Italian peninsula, breaking through the enemy lines and forcing the Nazis out of Italy for good.
Hell yeah.
Jesus.
Advice time. These feelings you've got right now, hold on to them. For dear life, hold on to them. You're gonna need them.
Oh no.
Fun fact. The Soldier Bear became famous for his contribution to the Allied victory. Wojtek became a celebrity, and an image of him carrying an artillery shell became the official army symbol, proudly affixed to the uniforms, pendants, and vehicles of the 22nd Company. This one.
Yeah, that one we saw before.
Right? Fantastic.
Best emblem ever.
Such a good war emblem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yay, more happy feelings. Holding on to these for dear life.
After Wojtek finished his tour of duty in Italy, he sailed to Glasgow, Scotland, where his company was later demobilized because the war was over. Wojtek's
In Glasgow?
fame- yes. They needed
Huh.
they needed a place. Poland was still in a wreck. Poland was
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
basically on fire. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like unlivable kind of on fire.
And the part that wasn't still on fire was ash.
Exactly. And and it's full of Nazi defectors being moved through by troops that had pushed from Russia and no place to go home to at the time.
Yeah.
So Wojtek's fame continued. He was welcomed by local spectators who came to watch and cheer for the famous Iranian soldier bear. Reporters streamed into the headquarters of the 22nd Company at Winfield Park and took pictures and wrote about the fantastic stories of the brave bear. The local Scottish-Polish Society nominated Wojtek as a fellow community member and presented him with a bottle of beer.
Hey, he likes what he likes.
Right?
Hell yeah.
The demobilization of the Polish army in 1947 forced Wojtek's comrades to search for a new home for the large animal and find a place to put him, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the 15th of November, 1947, it was decided that they would transfer Wojtek from Winfield Park to the Edinburgh Zoo for safekeeping. Wojtek's companions gathered at the zoo to say their goodbyes. This was really hard for the men. They had a rough transition ahead of them. They wanted a good place for their friend to stay until they could bring him home to a free Poland.
Right.
Here's a quote. He walked into his
This is about to get sad.
He walked into his cage of his own accord. I never felt so sorry as I was to see an animal who had enjoyed so much freedom and fun confined to a cage. This was Thomas H. Gillespie, the owner of the Edinburgh Zoo. Wojtek continued to be visited by many spectators and artists who made pictures and sketches of the famous army animal. He was also visited by his comrades, who frequently jumped over the fence of his cage in order to wrestle with the aging bear. Interestingly, Wojtek only responded to Polish visitors who cheerfully shouted at him in their native tongue. Here's another quote. He was of friendly disposition, and I had many pleasant talks with him. He was, I think, happier indoors at this time, where he enjoyed the warmth of infrared heat. During his last few months, he was an old animal, and he lived very contentedly. Once again, the owner of the Edinburgh Zoo. Eventually, though, before Poland would be a suitable place for a hero like Wojtek, the aging bear's health started to fail. He withdrew into his compound, rarely venturing out, and reacting only to the sound of a Polish voice. With the onset of crippling arthritis in 1963, give me just a sec. Wojtek was anesthetized and shot, giving the hero a soldier's death. He was 22 when he died, which is very old for his kind, most of which have never lived a soldier's life. This is not an appropriate time for a fun fact.
Correct.
This is a quote from Dr. Thomas Trafas. The most significant fact of the whole story of Wojtek was that he was adopted by people... The most significant fact in the whole story of Wojtek is that he was adopted by people who were also orphans in some way. They lost their families, their home, and their country, and there was no chance of returning to it. They did not have anyone to return to. The bear and the soldiers bonded because he too had been abandoned. There are many books about Wojtek, and they are very powerful. The tale of this bear is not only funny, adorable, and crazy, but is also a tale of friendship, strength, and hope. We're gonna take a second.
Yep.
I got a little bit into the bear.
Yeah.
It gets a little rough, but
I'm straight up crying. I'll own it.
I had my time with tears last night, so
Yeah.
I managed to get through it. It was hard. I apologize to everybody. I told you guys it was going to be a little bit. Vinoaz says,
Oh, it's
yeah, that bear was my
Oh, I was
freaking
gonna
hero.
say, yeah, like even the sad parts, it's a story worth telling and one really worth hearing.
I will say this. I am very happy with his final days.
Right?
Yeah.
He was it was quoted itself. He was happy
Right?
in his
Yeah.
final day. He was having a good old grand old time. Obviously, he didn't trust anybody but those people, but that stands to reason.
No, I agree.
Right?
I'm glad he was
He
cared.
was-
He was well
he
cared
was
for.
he was given the honor and respect he deserved.
Yeah.
October refuses to acknowledge the bear's death, which is perfectly fine. Dueling Ogre says, very happy or very happy. All right.
Good, clean bear jokes.
Tom, have you recovered enough?
Yeah, I think I'll be right.
Okay. So everybody, we're going to move on from Wojtek. He will never leave our hearts, but he will always be in our memory. And we're going to talk about Rip, the rescue dog.
Yep.
And I believe we're going to set the scene for this one a little bit. Right? That would...
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
Here we go. Go ahead.
So, the stream video has not broken. This is very specifically intentional. So, for a moment, imagine something terrible has happened. Imagine being caught in the rubble of an air raid. Potentially hurt and in pain, trapped in a claustrophobically tight space, or both. Almost certainly in pitch black darkness. The air being still, even stale, and filled with dust from the rubble. Possibly to the point of being choking. And it seems like all is lost. And then you hear an odd scratching and shifting. A yap. More scratching and sniffing, another yap, and human voices shouting. And light breaks through, and the sweet taste of fresh air as people tear away the rubble, entombing you with their bare hands. The first thing you see, other than your human rescuers, is our canine hero, Rip. Rip was a humble, homeless terrier mutt in World War II London when he befriended one Mr. E. King, a British air raid precaution warden. Mr. King, he's essentially just a stray mutt wandering around London that King saw and took a little bit of pity on, so he gave him a little bit of his rations, more or less in the hopes that the dog would go away and stop begging, and instead, the dog followed him and quickly befriended him. And he soon became the air raid precaution unit's unofficial mascot. And before long, became an integral member of the team.
Look at that boy. He is
Yeah,
absolutely
just a happy boy.
adorable.
So Rip never had any formal training. Actually, a quote from Mr. King, he said at the time that it wasn't a matter of it wasn't a question of training him. They simply could not stop him from vigorously pursuing trapped victims of the bombings.
He's a good boy.
He's such a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Next slide.
Right?
During bombs, smoke, and fire, Rip still just valiantly would sniff people out, Mr. King said the way he knew that Rip had found somebody was his nose would start twitching crazily. His nose would start twitching so excitedly because he was so happy to have found somebody, because I think he realized what he was doing and how important it was to find people. And not just people. He saved over 100 British civilians, countless animals, all trapped in destroyed buildings in London during the Blitz. If anybody doesn't know the Blitz of London and the Battle of Britain, the German Luftwaffe tried to literally bomb Britain into submission from September 1940 to May 1941.
Right.
Next slide. So in July 1945, for his absolutely incredible efforts to save the lives of British civilians, Rip was awarded the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, the PDSA, Dickon Medal, named for Maria Dickon, the founder of the PDSA, one of Britain's largest animal charities. The Dickon Medal has also been referred to in many articles as the Animals Victoria Cross, and for our presumably mostly American audience, the Victoria Cross is kind of the British equivalent to our Medal of Honor. So he basically got the Animals British Medal of Honor.
That's amazing.
It's so good. Next slide. This is probably my favorite one. I love this one, but the next one. Him and his medal.
That's fantastic.
It's so good. And that's Mr. King.
Excellent. He's a good
Rip
boy,
is
too.
widely... Oh, he's so... Yeah. King is also a very good boy. Oh, what a good dog.
Right?
Rip is widely recognized as having... Yeah.
My head was in the way of seeing the
he's pretty widely recognized as having been one of the major motivators. Back then, they didn't officially train search and rescue dogs in the military to trace casualties. And his wild success of it and how damned good he was at it was definitely a motivator for the initial push to start officially training British dogs to do search and rescue.
I think that if you are able to successfully save over 100 people, like, that is a good proof that what you are doing is good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. In 1946, he grew old. He did eventually grow old and die.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first Dickon Medal recipient to be buried in the official PDSA cemetery. And his headstone reads, "Rip DM for Dickon Medal. Rip DM, quote, we also serve. For the dog whose body lies here played his part in the Battle of Britain."
Nice.
I'd say he was, in every way possible, a very, very good boy, and the world is better for his having graced us with his existence.
Yep.
I love this dog so damn much.
I agree.
Yeah.
I also have a terrier, or a terrier mix, so it really hits home for me.
Yep. No, it's I definitely researched a little bit on Rip.
He's so good.
Right? He also apparently rubbed off on some of the other dogs that they brought in. And,
I did not catch that.
There was a little bit about the fact that it wasn't just him, but they did start using some other dogs too. Some of them were dogs that had been picked up from one of the kennels that he helped save, right? And then they started taking those dogs along with Rip while Rip would do his thing. And then eventually they picked up on it. And they weren't as adamant or as quick to learn as Rip was, but he definitely spread the practice to a couple of other dogs. So yeah,
I can only imagine Rip sitting there with an audience of other dogs going, lads, do it like this, lads.
Oh,
No, not like that, lads.
Right?
Put your back into it.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay, so now that we've met Rip, we're going to take a look at another canine hero. This story is the story of Judy, the canine prisoner of war. This story reads very similarly to I would have to say just a series of unfortunate events. And just it is a tale of absolute perseverance. And we're moving into it. It's time to go
It's time.
All right.
It's go time.
Right. The following work that we're about to cover had this book as an instrumental piece of my research. This is No Better Friend, One Man, One Dog, and Their Extraordinary Story of Courage. And it is available as an ebook on many different services and available as a physical book through things like Amazon. And I cannot recommend this book enough. If you want to read more about Judy, maybe take a look into it. So, born in Shanghai, Judy was a purebred, liver and white English pointer. She was born in the Shanghai Dog Kennels, which was a boarding kennel that was used by English expatriates in Shanghai, China. Judy was one of 7 puppies to a dog named Kelly, owned by a couple from Sussex. At the age of 3 months, she escaped the kennel and lived in the back alleys and was fed by a shopkeeper until she was 6 months old. She began her war against the Axis powers before the Axis had even become a thing. As she was in a scuffle with a group of Japanese sailors from a Navy gunboat, and afterwards that caused a worker from the kennel to find her, and she was returned there. But by the time she was returned to the kennel, her mother and her siblings were no longer there. Originally called Shudi, this name was eventually anglicized to become Judy. Judy was ready for war at 6 months. She just needed an army. And she was in luck. There was an army in port looking for her. In 1936, the crew of the insect-class gunboat, the HMS Gnat. Right?
It's appropriate. Insect class, naming it a gnat. Yep,
Right.
that'll work. That'll do.
The the HMS Gnat voted to get a ship's mascot. And this was due, in part, to the competitive nature of the gunboats. With the HMS B, the HMS Cicada, the HMS Cricket, all already having their own mascots.
Which one was John Paul Jones on?
Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yellow Fever.
Which terribly named boat?
Yellow Jacket.
Right? The captain and the chief boatswain's mate, Lieutenant Commander J. Waldegrave, and Chief Petty Officer Charles Jeffrey purchased Judy from the kennel and presented her to the crew. Judy, as it turns out, was hoped to be trained as a gun dog. She would then be used by the men who would go ashore to assist with hunting, which was a common occupation for English pointers. Turns out, Judy was trash at hunting. She failed to help even a little every time she was taken ashore to find game. Her time spent on the streets of Shanghai was blamed for her lack of hunting instinct. The only time that she would ever point in the traditional manner was when she could smell food. But Judy was far from useless. The crew began to find the dog very useful at navigating the river, as she was able to alert them of something that I discovered existed today, and it's called cess boats. So these were boats that were literally filled with human waste that would infect a ship with its foul odor for days.
Yeah.
Judy would alert everyone in easily sufficient time to close all the hatches and minimize the effects of the smell.
Mm-hmm.
When the ship would approach a cess boat, Judy would sense them coming and would begin to run in circles, alerting the crew of the impending stench.
Guys,
Right?
poop out! Poop out, guys!
Exactly.
Poop out!
It stinks. I don't like it.
Exactly.
Close the windows! Poop out!
It's coming. On another occasion, Judy single-handedly foiled a river pirate attack.
Yeah, go Judy.
At 3 a.m., while most of the crew slumbered, and the limited humans with their pitiful senses on watch were foiled by things like darkness.
You immortal.
Exactly. Judy suddenly leapt from her box and headed to the main deck to bark furiously into the dark. The watch then shined the ship's powerful lights in the direction that she had indicated. It was there that they found a pair of junk ships. When I say junk ship, that means it's the model of the ship. It is a junk.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Usually single-sailed, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
These ships were well known to be river pirates. The two ships were tied together with heavy rope and would flank a larger ship, and when the rope caught the bow, it would cause the boats to simultaneously pull up alongside of the boat, allowing for a surprise attack where the pirates would board and kill everyone in the night.
Damn.
Right.
That's actually pretty smart.
Right?
Yeah.
By the time that those pirates had boarded, though, they were met with an entirely awake, pajama-clad crew of British Navy men, armed to the teeth.
Not on my boat!
Right? One of the men...
You ain't JPJ in this shit.
Right, exactly. One of the men was in the lavatory when the alarm was raised and didn't have time to go back and get fully dressed.
Oh no, poop boat!
So when he appeared on
Whatever.
the deck, ready for combat, he had only a scarlet-colored pajama top, fiercely waving a fire axe, no pants to be seen. Having lost the element of surprise, the pirates were then cut down quickly or driven off. Her keen sense of danger was once again attributed to her time on the mean streets of Shanghai. Let's check in with the chat here a little bit. Let's see. October says that this is the wholesome content that I want. Thank you very much. This is the wholesome content I want to provide. Experience over zero is apparently experiencing snow. I heard that in that area they were getting 5 to 10 inches tonight.
Oh.
Yep. Let's see.
Dueling ogres
Dueling
in response to the poop boat.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's not food! It's the exact opposite of food!
Right. And then Dueling Orco says, Buongiorno, that's not the only thing he was waving. Right?
Yeah.
CWP 13. We this tonight is a history-based podcast. This is Mass Historia, and tonight we are talking about the animal heroes of World War I and II. We are currently talking about Judy, the POW dog.
Every Thursday, 9 o'clock Pacific time.
Right?
Check.
Yep.
So, in November of 1937, the Gnat met with the American river gunboat, the USS Panay. After the Panay held a party for the two ships' companies, the Gnat crew departed, and only realized after that Judy was not with them.
Uh-oh.
They contacted
Good job, idiots.
Right. They contacted the Panay via signal lamp, but they insisted that they had not seen her. The following morning,
Keep track of your dog!
the crew from a Chinese trader that they heard from the crew on a Chinese trader that Judy was on board the Panay after all. and the Americans
Those
just didn't want to give her
dog-eating
back.
bastards.
So basically, Judy was like, "Can I come on your boat?" They come into contact with way too many poop boats on this boat. Can I come on your boat?
Interesting piece of information.
Those jerks, they stole their dog?
Judy was
No.
mad every time they avoided the poo boats.
Really?
Judy wanted to go to the poo boats.
Oh my god! That's...
Remember, dogs smell waste as,
Aw,
as a
dirty girl.
communication method.
Oh, dirty girl.
oh god damn.
Right? Experience Over Zero says she was a dog, right? So, the following morning, in retaliation, a party boarded the American vessel and stole the ship's bell. Afterwards, they contacted the Panay and offered them the bell back in return for Judy. She was returned within the hour.
Right, give us our goddamn dog back, you dicks.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of serious. The ships need their bell.
Right.
Like shift changes, all sorts of stuff is done with that bell. It's basically along the lines of, "Give us our dog back, or we're taking your rudder."
And all this has happened. World War II hasn't even started.
Right.
Like,
Oh my
this is
god.
before Britain and Japan went to war. So, in early 1938, while docked in
Did you become a
Hankow,
mama?
yep, Judy took a liking to another pointer on board a French gunboat, the Francis Garnier.
Oh.
Oh, dirty girl.
The two ships' companies held an impromptu wedding ceremony for the dogs. The French
So
pointer,
cute.
Paul, remained on the Nat for 3 days before returning to his ship. Judy fell pregnant and gave
Dirty
birth
girl.
to 13 puppies. 10 of those puppies went on to serve on other various naval boats. Judy was involved in an incident in October that year that resulted in the ending of her trips ashore in Hankow. Whilst being walked by two
Oh,
sailors from the Nat, they were confronted by Japanese soldiers who pointed a loaded rifle at Judy. In response,
Bastards.
one of those seamen was thrown into the river by leading seaman Jack Law in response.
Lay it down the law.
Right? During the following days, they received visits from several Japanese officers on board the Nat, and then it was decided that it would be better for Judy to stay on the ship. In 19...
Oh my god, negotiations with Japanese officers over a dog.
Right?
Oh my god.
My man was thrown into the river.
Your man pointed a gun at the dog.
Right?
You should be glad we didn't point a gun at the man.
Right? In June of 1939, several Locust-class gunboats arrived on the Yangtze to take over operations from the existing Insect-class vessels. Part of the crew of the Nat transferred to the HMS Grasshopper, including Judy. Following the British declaration of war on Germany in September of that year, several of the river gunboats, the Grasshopper included, were redeployed to the British base in Singapore. The ship
Damn.
was rarely deployed from Singapore until January of 1942, when it was deployed with other gunboats to provide covering bombardments along the coast of Malaya for retreating troops, and occasionally to carry out evacuations. By this time, Judy was primarily being looked after by Petty Officer George White. On 14th of February, Judy indicated the approach of a Japanese aircraft, and the anti-aircraft gunners took up the positions in readiness.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
The Grasshopper was hit by a total of 3 bombs. and the order was given to abandon the ship, as fire was spreading close to the ammunition compartment. The men were forced to abandon ship, as it could explode at any minute. They rowed to a nearby island that could be seen from the wreck. The island they arrived on turned out to be uninhabited, but with little water and no apparent food. With little food and no apparent water. That's the more important one.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
After a camp had been set up ashore, they realized Judy was not with them. Petty Officer White went back to the still floating grasshopper.
Oh.
He boarded the vessel, descended below decks, and began to search for any items that might be of use. And while he was there, he found Judy in the darkness, pinned in her bed under a row of lockers. He constructed a raft out of materials on the grasshopper and rowed the items, along with Judy, back to the island.
What?
What a
Is the
good
ship
dude.
still on fire at this point?
Yes.
Holy crap. What a damn good dude.
And as a disclaimer, because I'm trying to be a professional in my amateur historianism, this is not a picture of the gnat or the grasshopper. This is the HMS Royal Oak. There are no pictures of the gnat or the grasshopper sinking. So this should be the grasshopper, but there's no pictures of it. So I was looking for a ship sinking. I found a British ship that served in the same area. This is a different ship. So
Is this the same class of ship? Do you know?
Ish.
Ish. Okay.
Close, but not the same.
Okay.
So the island that the men found themselves on was desolate and unsettled, and the lack of water was becoming an issue. That was until Judy
Tell Judy.
began to dig at a point on the water line. It took a couple of minutes, but Judy managed to unearth a freshwater spring and was credited,
What a good girl.
right, with saving everyone's lives. During the first night, the magazine on the grasshopper finally caught light and exploded, sinking the vessel. The survivors continued to camp on the beach for the following few days, with Judy protecting them from poisonous snakes.
Awesome.
What a dog. Hot
Exactly.
damn.
5 days later, a small Chinese ship arrived and took the survivors to the island of Singkep. From there, Judy, along with the other survivors, traveled 2 days on a Chinese junk to Sumatra, where it was hoped that the British forces would take them to Sri Lanka. Upon arrival, they took the vessel up a series of rivers until they narrowed too much for any ships to pass. The crew then embarked on a 200-mile cross-country trek across the island in an attempt to reach the British evacuation point.
Wow.
Damn.
During the journey through the jungle, Judy was attacked by a crocodile and suffered
God.
right and suffered a cut to her shoulder. The survivors patched up the wound with their limited first aid supplies. She then continued to warn them of approaching predators, and one crewman claimed that she saved him from a Sumatran tiger. They emerged from the
I
jungle.
believe it.
Right?
No, this dog, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yep.
They emerged from the jungle at Sawaluto, where they caught a train towards Padang. The group then missed the last evacuation ship by 9 days.
Oh, no.
And with the Japanese already arriving on the island, the survivors from the Grasshopper, along with Judy, were taken into custody as prisoners of war on the 18th of March.
Bastards.
Right? Let's check in with the chat here real quick. Right.
She just got attacked by a crocodile. Leave her alone.
Right, exactly. We've got she's not thirsty for French boys. But she was though. She wanted that guy.
Yeah.
She got him.
Thirsty white girl.
Dueling Ogre says none of these dudes from learned island survival techniques. No, they were British.
Shots fired.
All right. So, refusing to leave her behind, the men smuggled Judy with them. They kept her hidden behind rice sacks and away from the eyes of her captors. Eventually, they ended up in the Glor Glor POW camp in Medan, Indonesia. She was looked after by Les Serrel from the Grasshopper and a private named Cousins, who had the job of making leather goods for the guards. Cousins would steal leather scraps to feed to Judy. Cousins died of malaria shortly after and was unable to continue taking care of the dog. So Judy wandered around the camp without a caretaker as the POWs were really hard up. And taking care of a dog was a burden that none of them could afford to bear. None of them but Petty Officer Frank Williams.
Yeah! Good on you, Frank!
He'd been watching the dog.
You stick with that dog. She'll warn you about poop boats.
Right?
No, she won't. She's going to tell you in advance. There's a poop boat. Let's go get it.
Right? He'd been watching the dog since his arrival at the camp, eyeing the way that she hunted for food, snapping up the maggots that the men would toss from their bowls, and he saw that she always was welcome in a presence among the prisoners, but she didn't belong to any one man. One day, he called her to him. He held down his bowl of rice, giving her his entire portion, and when she was finished eating, she laid by his feet and didn't leave. From then on, she was William's dog.
Nice.
Judy fearlessly intervened when the Japanese guards would beat a prisoner that put her hazardously close to death. Without hesitation, she would run to the side of any man who was taking a beating, snarling and growling to protect whomever it was. Which then meant that the dogs would turn their aggression, or the guards would turn their aggression onto the dog. Knowing that this meant that Judy's days were likely numbered, Williams hatched a plan.
Best plan ever.
Right? It was known that the commandant of the camp was a heavy boozer. And he could even be rather friendly when he was tanked. All right. He then waited for the camp's commandant to get his fill of sake, waiting till he was nice and pliable, and the gamble paid off. The commandant agreed to William's idea, and from then on, Judy was officially POW number 81A.
Oh my god!
Yep.
So, he got her registered as an official POW
So good.
by the commandant of the enemy
Right.
forces. Because he was drunk.
Like, next thing they're like, why did you register this dog? Shut up, okay?
I didn't register a dog. I
I'm
was
fucking
never doing
hungover.
like that.
Exactly.
I'm hungover.
This
Shut up
dog's
your
a
face.
registered POW now. Must have always been. You just can't read the paperwork.
I bet that no one questioned it.
Oh,
Right? It's a Japanese
hell
internment
no.
camp. Everyone underneath that commandant is terrified.
Yeah.
Although this new status did save Judy from her execution on multiple occasions, Judy was never out of danger for very long. Over 3 years as a POW, She provoked prison guards, wild animals, and barked at tigers, and survived yet
Jesus.
another battle with a crocodile.
God.
God!
In June of 1944, the men were transferred to Singapore aboard the SS Van Warwick, which was then named the Harukiku Maru by the Japanese. And as we've learned many times on this show tonight, animals are not allowed on boats. So Frank Williams
No.
pulled a trick that he didn't know Judy was oddly familiar with and taught Judy to lie still and silent inside a rice bag.
It's like an orange crate.
Right, exactly. When he boarded the ship, Judy climbed into a sack, and Williams slung the sack over his shoulder to take on board. For 3 hours, the men were forced to stand on deck in the searing heat. For the entire time, Judy remained still and silent in the bag on Williams' back.
Wow.
Yet, this trip was doomed for our intrepid heroes.
Uh-oh.
British forces managed to sink the Harukiku Maru
Oh, what?
Oh.
before it reached the new destination.
Yeah, dang it!
They had no idea it was a prison transport ship.
Right.
They just thought it was a Japanese ship, so they went after it, right?
This poor dog.
Right?
For real.
As the ship was sinking, Williams began to panic. He was trying to figure out how he was going to get his hidden illegal dog off of the ship. So he opened a porthole and pushed the dog through into the ocean below. Only then did he attempt to save himself. Frank Williams survived, but he was recaptured and sent to a new camp without news of Judy's survival.
Oh, man.
Here's a quote for you guys. This is from Frank Williams. Judy, apparently I didn't get this one all on the same slide. I apologize for it. But Judy looked down and back at me with a sad look. I immediately understood her. She thought I was nuts. She then wrenched herself and curled up, rear paws, through the porthole. The hole was just wide enough. With a last push, she disappeared from sight. Williams. However, stories then began to be told to Williams at the new camp. The stories of a dog that was helping drowning men reach pieces of debris on which to hold.
Oh, my God.
And others recalled how the dog would bring them flotsam to keep them afloat. The dog also allowed men to hold onto her back while swimming them to safety. She was found in the water by other survivors of the sinking and once again was hidden from the Japanese in rice sacks.
Oh my god!
Upon arrival at the dock, she was found by Les Searle, who tried to smuggle her onto the truck with him. However, she was discovered by a Japanese captain who threatened to kill her. Although, that captain's order was countermanded by the newly arrived former commander of the Medan camp. And she
Oh
was
my God!
That dog is a POW! How dare you!
Right? And she was allowed to travel with Cyril to the new camp.
Oh, my God.
Williams was giving up hope of finding Judy when he arrived at his new camp. He was giving up hope of finding Judy when she arrived at his new camp.
Oh, my Lord.
I couldn't believe my eyes, he said. As I entered the camp, a scraggly dog hit me square between the shoulders and knocked me over. I'd never been so glad to see the old girl, and I think she felt the same. When they were finally liberated in August of 1945, Williams thought his days of hiding Judy were over.
Nope.
They had to get on the boat. They had to get on the boat to go home.
That they were finally free, not only of the internment and of the beatings, but also the fear of being separated.
Come on, Judy, back in the rice sack. You know how it goes.
But he was wrong.
Oh my god.
When they arrived at the dock to board the SS Atenor, the ship that would deliver them home to Britain, he noticed a sign forbidding any animals from boarding the ship. To leave her behind now was inconceivable.
Damn
Yep.
straight.
Right?
You guys go ahead. I'll grab the next one.
Yep.
The other men from the camp went into action and held the dog back while Williams went aboard. Then, they distracted the guards and smuggled Judy onto the ship.
Yes! Yes!
Eventually, the two made it home to England together, and there they were met with fanfare and fame. Judy was awarded the United Kingdom's Dickin Medal, which honors the wartime service of animals, as we learned with Rip. In February of 1950, she contracted cancer and died at the age of 13. Williams...
That's old.
Yeah. For a larger dog, that is a long
Yeah.
time. Williams buried her in a specially made RAF coat.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, this is the PSDA for gallantry that we were talking about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Williams was interviewed about his time with the dog. And the most powerful thing that I can leave this story off with is that Williams said every day in the prison camp, he thanked God for Judy because she gave him a reason to keep living. All I had to do was look at her and into those weary, bloodshot eyes, and I would ask myself, what would happen to her if I died? And that's our stories for today, everybody.
I'm gonna go cuddle my dog.
Man, animal stories are fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
So the one recurring theme
Right?
that I got from all of the stories this evening,
Animals are the fucking best.
well, aside from that, I mean, got that. Every single one of these animals lived past their life expectancy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they were
Apparently,
legendary
if you want your-
versions of their animal types with mountabars
Well-
and everything.
I'm just thinking if you want if you want Fluffy to live for a whole lot longer, take her to war.
Nah, Lulu would die immediately.
No, I'm pretty sure that half of Wojtek's story would work with Jasper. He could get addicted to cigarettes.
Yeah.
He could get. He'd like beer. He'd
That's
probably
the
figure
other thing.
out showers.
Bear that lived much longer than its natural lifespan on beer and cigarettes.
Part of his failing health was complications in his larynx. So
yeah, doesn't surprise me at all.
yeah.
I was gonna say liver cirrhosis.
Well, and one source I was able to find, and I was unable to corroborate it with another source, says that Wojtek was able to. He ate lit cigarettes
Huh.
Oh my god.
and could tell the difference between a lit and an unlit cigarette. But I will give everybody the preface that this was a BuzzFeed video that I got that information from.
I don't
So,
even care. I'm choosing to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, so
It's too goddamn funny.
right. I just unable to verify that source.
Yeah.
I tried quite a few different ways, but all I saw was that he smoked and he ate cigarettes. So, but yeah, man, there are so many other animal stories for us to cover.
Yeah, just
we're doing more
barely
animal
scratched the
stories.
surface.
Yeah, this is only
Barely.
part 1 for sure.
Yeah.
But everybody join us next week on Thursday as we will cover the Valentine's Day Fact Massacre is what we're calling it. We will have several Valentine's Day related history stories
Oh.
to share with you guys on Valentine's
Bring
Day.
your sweet or no.
We Rank Goat says the life expectancy of pointers is actually 12 to 15, so even though she was an older dog, it's pretty average, and that breed is also prone to tumors, which makes sense. Yeah, well, did die of cancer. Dueling Ogre says, I mean, given the right amount of saliva, which is a lot more in a bear mouth, a human can put out a cigarette on the tongue. I used to do it as
That's
a
what I
party
was
trick.
thinking.
What is it?
Especially when it just got done drinking beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And taking a shower and eating some marmalade.
The showers. Oh my god,
Yep.
the showers.
That was another thing that was rarely mentioned in any of the quick documentaries. All the when you go look up Wojtek, you will get the story of a bear that was found by soldiers, trained by the soldiers, becomes a private, and then taken to war and moved around boxes. But there was so much more to Wojtek.
Yeah.
So much more.
Well, there was so much more that turned him into a personality as opposed to a bear.
Yeah.
That made him an individual as opposed to a pet.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and the same with Bill. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I totally realized right now that I forgot to mention after the battle of Monte Cassino, that was when he was promoted to corporal officially.
Right.
Yeah. So
That is an important thing. It was Corporal Wojtek.
yeah, he ended his military career as a corporal. So, all right, everybody, that's all we have for you tonight. Stick around for the after show. We'll all be back.